So the place here in Last Chance Road where you can find stromatolites, I'm standing just just next to Windy Peak, this hill right here. If you look off to the west of the hill, if I can do this or not, but you'll see these dark little ridges that come off of this main ridge, and those are pockets of a type of soil called Blue Gate shale, part of the Mancos Formation. And they are sort of associated with lava rocks. You can see just here in front of me even these dark boulders of lava rock, and there's a very close association. And I wonder if it's because the lava rock has kept the shale from eroding and turning into just this clay that you see heavily eroded here down in this area right here. But the stromatolites are on those little peninsulas of dark material. There's also on the southeast corner of Windy Peak, there's also a pocket of that shale, and I want to go around and check that out because I haven't been there yet. And I don't know that the volcanic rock and the shale are millions of years separate, but I think that it's been the post-deposition where the lava has protected the shale from erosion is the reason that there's such a close association. So this is what those little black ridges or little dark ridges look like. You can see there's quite a bit of this volcanic material on the surface, and mixed in with it are some pieces of stromatolite. I found this one on the way up. Turn the close up on that. I found this one on the way up. I was not going to collect any because I have been here earlier this year and collected some. And I thought, well, I won't collect any, but I kind of like that one. It has some nice color to it. And then here is a much smaller version. You can see that structure there that stromatolites form. And I know I've talked about stromatolites quite a bit, but for those who haven't seen the earlier videos, stromatolites are formed by a colony of single-celled animals, or single-celled plants, I should say, or I don't know if they're plants actually or not. They're formed by these single-celled animals that were the first creatures on Earth to actually photosynthesize. So they produced a lot of the oxygen that we, of course, now use today. So, you know, if it weren't for these stromatolites, we probably wouldn't be here, certainly not in the form we are. So, I like the story of the stromatolites and the fact that you can come out here and find them fairly readily. There's another piece right there. I don't know that the volcanics and the Blue Gate shale actually have anything in common, but there does seem to be a nice overlap. Some right there. I will say though that I've made several stops out here along Last Chance Road, and I've found stromatolites along several of those stops, and they're not necessarily in the Blue Gate shale formation. So you can find them elsewhere out here. That might be a fragment of one there. Yeah, I'm going to just do a real quick reconnoiter here on this. There are other kind of interesting rocks out here. I don't think that's a stromatolite. but it is kind of interesting. I'll leave that here for the next person. Yeah, there doesn't seem to be a real dense deposits of stromatolites on this first little peninsula of volcanic material. So we're going back to the truck. Well, actually, maybe we'll just walk over to this other peninsula here and see if there's any better stromatolites there. I came over to this next ridge, and one of the first things I found was this really large piece of stromatolite here, which I definitely don't think I'll be taking. I don't even think my saw would cut that. But so, to continue on about what stromatolites are, um, with stromatolites you get this sort of wavy appearance, and what causes that is the fact that they tended to grow in shallow marine environments, high saline environments, and as the tide would go in and out, the debris would build up on top of this, and the organism would work its way up through the debris and would establish these stripes of material. And so if you slice it horizontal like this with a rock saw, you'll get sort of bullseye effects. And if you cut it this way with the saw, you'll get a striping effect, sort of undulating lines. Again, somebody with a larger saw is going to have to come out and get that one. Again, there's not a high density of them, but they are little pieces here and there that you can find. Again, there's some color from that one. So in the distance there, you can see the ridge that I just came from. There was a smaller ridge in the middle that I skipped because I had never stopped at this location. This is right at the base of the main ridge that separates this valley from the valley where I-70 is. And like I said, I'd never been here before. Those other areas I had been to last year, these ridges behind me. And I wasn't sure what to expect, but you can see how far I've walked from the truck. And of course, I've already found one here, really nice agatized one there. I think that's a piece of one. Let me make sure I can show you these. I think that's a piece of one. That's a piece of one. And I think this is a piece of one. And again, I've only come, maybe 100 feet from the truck. So I'm thinking that this might be kind of the jackpot. I don't know if it's because fewer people come over to this area, or if it's just because for whatever depositional reason, there's just more of the material here. Back this off a little bit. Yeah, I don't know if the reason there are so many here is because of less collecting pressure, or maybe something geologically that there's just a greater deposition of the Blue Gate shale here than there is further out on this open plains back here. Basically this has been eroded more than the area here. But I'm going to go ahead and search this. I'm going to go up to that next little knoll behind us and see how much material there is actually here. I mean, I would hate to tell you that this is the most wonderful place to collect stromatolites, and then there's just a narrow band of it here on this hillside. So I'm going to go up further up this hill and see if the density of fossils continues. Well, I've roughly doubled the distance from my car up the hill here, and on the way I've counted 11 stromatolites. So none of them were as concentrated as that last bunch that I pointed out, but they are definitely here in some abundance. And I also found this, which is, I think, I don't know what that is. I think it's chert sitting on top of that boulder, which I don't think it got there by natural means. So this area could be, relatively popular with local rock hounders looking for stromatolites. Anyway, I'm going to continue up. I told you I'd make it up to the top of that next little bubble, and we'll see what goes on up there. Can you hear this? Another thing that makes me think that this might be a little area for rock hounding is this little cluster of chitty pebbles that I found here, and there's also a large stromatolite there associated with it. So unless this is a dinosaur died here and there's a pocket of gastroliths here, I think this is probably a discard pile for somebody who didn't want to take all this stuff home. And again, we're not quite to the top of this yet, so we'll keep going. We'll just poke around in this lava field a little bit more and see what we can find. Like I said, I'm not going to collect too much because I've been out here last year, and there's just so many stromatolites a person needs. But we are going to see if we can find some other deposits of stromatolites that we didn't know about. That's Windy Hill there in the distance, and there are stromatolites on the south side of Windy, so I would like to investigate that that slope to the south, or to our right. So I'm over on the southeast corner of Windy Peak, which you see behind me, and there is a ridge that comes off of Windy Peak, and then there is a meadow, and then another ridge further to the east. And I think it's that ridge further to the east that we want to be on. This one, I spent about 15 minutes going up and down it, and I found 3 really small pieces of stromatolite and one pretty good sized piece. It's like twice the size of my palm. But for the time spent and the amount found, I don't think it's very worthwhile coming over here. So we're going to go over to that other ridge and see if that's the one that we're supposed to be on. See if it's any better as far as a denser deposit or larger pieces. We'll see you over there. I was very surprised that it took so long to find the first stromatolite, but then as we continue up the hill, I think that's one. It's not very well formed, but I think that's one. And this is definitely one. Since I've started finding them, yeah, I've found about a dozen. Again, you can see how far I am up from the truck, so it may be that these stromatolites occur in a zone up at this elevation, this topographic elevation, because they definitely didn't seem to be down lower. You see there are several of these dark ridges off in the distance, not that very large one in the back, but these low Um, some of them have trees on them, some don't. But those are just pockets of boulder fields of this volcanic rock. And the stromatolites seem to be concentrated in those boulder fields. So if you come out here, you might be able to find stromatolites in that alluvial deposit between the boulder fields, but I would say stick to the boulder fields, and you'll find plenty of stromatolites to keep you busy. Yeah, that's one that's not much to write home about. But see, here's one here. It has some very nice striations in it. So once you get that search image in your head, they're not difficult to find up here. Like for instance, here's one right here. Yeah, and it's still there. Well, that discard pile threw me off, so I'm not exactly sure what the count is, but I think it was about 5 or 6, mostly down towards the bottom. So if you're looking for stromatolites out here, I might look in that, where you see where the truck is. There's kind of a light colored sand there. So from there, about a third of the way up this slope seems to be where they're most concentrated. But they do still occur up to the top, just in very small numbers. Okay, I'm going to just make my way down onto this little flat, light colored area here, and then back to the truck. And I'll, if I find anything interesting along the way, I will definitely let you know. So coming down off this hill, I was a little surprised. I did find, I think it was 6 or 7 pieces of stromatolite, and out of the 7, say 5 of them were pretty good size. They were the size of a coffee cup saucer, if anybody remembers what those were like a small dessert plate or something like that. Bigger than I wanted to deal with, that's for sure. But I did find this, which I'm not sure what it is. When I first picked it up, I thought it was a piece of petrified wood, but now I'm not so sure. But I'll take it home and check it out, see what's going on with it. So anyway, that's the report from this end of the valley, right as it comes off of that hillside. In fact, the hillside is considered some of that Blue Gate shale, as well as this talus slope coming down off the road. I haven't been on either one of them, so here's a bit of exploration you can look into. So I'm over on the southeast corner of Windy Peak, which you see behind me, and there is a ridge that comes off of Windy Peak, and then there is a meadow, and then another ridge further to the east. And I think it's that ridge further to the east that we want to be on. This one, I spent about 15 minutes going up and down it, and I found 3 really small pieces of stromatolite, and one pretty good sized piece. It's like twice the size of my palm. But for the time spent and the amount found, I don't think it's very worthwhile coming over here. So we're going to go over to that other ridge and see if that's the one that we're supposed to be on. See if it's any better as far as a denser deposit or larger pieces. We'll see you over there. Stop recording. So we've come over, actually not one ridge, but 2 ridges. You can see as you look out this way, there's a slope down to a little drainage and another ridge. That's the ridge I was supposed to go to. And then there's an open field and another ridge way out there. And that's the one we were on before, where we didn't find much. But I've come to this ridge, and it's in line with a small peak, a little mini peak there, and as soon as I got out of the car, it seemed like I just walked maybe 50 steps and I found my first stromatolite, but then I walked about another 150 yards before I found my next one. So they seem to be relatively, what they call that, locally abundant, I guess is how you'd say it. Because right here we have 4 pieces just in a little cluster right here. That might be another piece there. So, you know, they tend to, how do I say it? I don't know if I'd say cluster, but they tend to occur in bands of deposit on the hillside. Now here's a very, very nice one right here. You can see it's got a lot of striations on it. Pretty good size too. Trying to do a little magnification here for you, but the camera was not being cooperative. Yes. Well, that's a very nice one. Yeah. And the next person out here will be tickled pink to have that. Yeah. Yeah, so definitely the better ridge, if you're going to be looking for stuff, is this one more to the east. You can see the landscape further east is definitely dominated by those boulder fields, and I just don't have the time to go out and investigate those. That might be my next stromatolite video, although I'm sure people are tired of listening about stromatolites, so it may be a while before I do that one. Yeah. So again, if you're coming out on Last Chance Road to look for stromatolites, this is probably an area that doesn't really get a lot of collection. It's on this southeast corner of Windy Peak, which is appropriately named. Even out on the interstate, which is about a mile and a half further north on the other side of Windy Peak, they actually have wind socks up and a sign that says, gusty wind area for large trucks and campers and whatnot. So, yeah, so this place certainly earns its name. Forecast today was for high winds at 4 o'clock. It's close to noon and it's already getting gusty here. So I'll do a little tailgate review of the few pieces that I've picked up here, and then and we'll be on to the next. Wow, it's I don't know, it's not very fancy, but it's certainly a large, heavy. Okay, let's get back out on the road. When I say I don't collect very many, I guess that's a relative term. I only got 7 this time. So here's one of the smaller ones, but I really did like the striations on there. Let's see. There's another one. Again, mostly for the striations. I think when that gets cut, it'll be much nicer. Get around the front here, make sure what you can see and what you can't. This one is actually kind of agatized. See that cherty material there in the bottom, but yet you still have the striations from the formation of the stromatolite. You get a sense of that dome shape that the stromatolites form as they get older, get larger. Striations following that formation, and you can see here some of the growth patterns in the material on top there. Yeah, I don't know if this is because of the stromatolite or if it's some other formation that's going on there, but it's definitely unusual for a stromatolite to have some thick bands like that. So I'm very interested in how this is going to prep out on the saw. And that dark material may actually be, well, it is kind of loose. I wonder if that's some of the sediment, a very large sediment episode that got trapped by the progressing stromatolites. Again, sort of that dome structure look to it. I do like the color. A lot of times the material you get is just kind of a sand color or a beige color, which is not very exciting. This is the larger piece. You can actually see the formation patterns there on that. I don't know if that almost looks like a limestone on there, doesn't it? But you see the stripe patterns, especially on this end. I think that's going to cut up really well into little usable slabs. So anyway, as far as stromatolites go, that's it. And while I truly do like collecting stromatolites, I will probably try and desist from, is that the right word? Try and not do so many stromatolite videos in the near future, unless you have something specific you want to know about. All right, that's it for the stromatolites. Like and subscribe as usual, and we will see you on our next journey. Thanks.